Live from the KLPR studios, it's time for Bringing the Heat with Vita Cabrera, Trinity Law, Kade Moore, and Elijah Mosier.
Welcome into the KLPR studios. Elijah Mosier alongside Kade Moore. Trinity Law. Vita Cabrera could not join us today. She has a couple weeks off as we start off our new show, Bringing the Heat. How we doing, guys?
Doing good.
Very good.
All right. Yeah, it's time to adjust everything, figure out what we're doing here. But very excited to be joining you guys from 4 to 5 on Mondays, and it'll be a lot of fun. I mean, we got a great show planned here for this afternoon. But first off, let's get to know each other a little bit here. Let's do some little 60-second get to know yous. All right, let's start off with, I don't know, the basketball superstar over here, the fifth-year senior, Trinity.
Yeah, my name is Trinity Law. I'm a fifth-year senior. I used my COVID year, and that's how I got my fifth year of eligibility. Was on the women's basketball team, but now I'm officially retired, so that's a little bit different now. And then I'm majoring in advertising and public relations and minoring in marketing.
Nice. I mean, it's going to be fun because you'll have a unique perspective on our topic today, so it'll be fun. Kade, go right ahead.
And then I'm Kade Moore. I'm a sophomore here at UNK. I'm from North Platte, Nebraska. It's about an hour and a half from Kearney. And then I'm a sports communication major. You probably heard my voice here on KLPR. I've been doing a lot of football games and basketball games here throughout the fall and winter. And then I'm going to be doing some softball here coming up in April. So, and then you've probably heard me on my radio show here too. So yeah, that's been fun doing that here on KLPR.
And I'm Elijah Mosier. I am a sports communications major out of Columbus, Nebraska. Big fan of my discoveries back home. And you've probably heard my voice a few times around here as well. I also do some work for News Channel Nebraska, but very excited to be here. And let's dig into our topic for today. The first topic, March Madness. We have to hit it. It's a sports show. It's a big time. We like to go dancing in March. And let's start out with the boys and the men. And let's take this region by region. Let's look at the East. I mean, there's some great teams in there. Of course, the reigning champs, UConn. Also got the Big Ten champs in Illinois, SEC champs in Auburn. A lot of conference champions in this region. Who are we liking as probably the prospective favorite to come out of this region?
I would say it's UConn. UConn's looked like the best team all year long. They've had solid depth on their team. But the thing that interested me a lot about this region was UConn being a conference champ of the Big East, and then Auburn being the SEC champ, like you said, and then Illinois and Iowa State being conference champions of their own conference. So I just thought it was interesting that they put all four conference champions in one region out of the six.
Yeah, I missed South Dakota State in there. I mean, not South Dakota State. They won their conference. So did Drake, but I meant Iowa State. But it's very interesting region per se. I'm very high on Auburn. I don't know why, but just the proudness that they came through that SEC tournament with. But both Iowa State and UConn dominated in their conference championship games. Trinity, who do you like in this region?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say UConn and Iowa State, but being from South Dakota, I have to go with South Dakota State. I don't know. Just hanging on to hope for that one.
Right in that 15 seed. I mean, hey, why not? That's a fun way to run. And so that's probably your favorite upset. I'm actually hedging my bets on South Dakota State over Iowa State too. And it's a little bit of a situation where we've had 15 beating twos before. And it's been a little bit more recent in the last couple years. And so interested to see what it comes with. But my favorite upset in this first round, I really like the chances of Duquesne beating BYU. Duquesne just announced that their head coach is retiring at the end of the season. Why not try to make a big run here at the big in March and see what can happen?
Yeah, I could agree with rooting for South Dakota State. I don't think they'll get it done with Iowa State because they have two guys from Nebraska on their team, William Cowell Jr. from Bellevue West and Charlie Easley from Lincoln Pius X. So I was kind of hoping Omaha would beat them in this or make it to the championship game against South Dakota State, and so then we could have all three Nebraska schools, Omaha, Creighton, and Nebraska, in the NCAA tournament. But that did not happen. But for my upset too, I have Duquesne as well. I have Duquesne beating BYU in the first round, the 11th seed. When they played against Nebraska, they played tough, and they were super physical on defense, and they had two really good guards, and Dede Grant, and I forgot the other guy's name, but he was a baller too. And so I could see them BYU kind of out physicaling BYU and getting the upset there. And then another one I looked at was Morehead State, but no really reasoning behind that. But I have a bunch of different brackets. So
Hey, I was just seeing it earlier today. The slower teams typically get more first-round upsets, and Illinois likes to play fast. So you never know. We saw Illinois a couple years ago. They dropped that second-round game, and that was a very early upset. So who knows what can happen there, Trinity? Any upsets you like in the East region?
Just for my South Dakota State people.
Always got to be a homer when you can. And so now we got to look at what's the best opening round match in this region. I really like this Washington State-Drake matchup. I think Drake is a team that beat Indiana State, which was a team a lot of people thought would be in, but a lot of bid thieves took that away. And so it'll be interesting what happens that game, but I still really like this Iowa State-South Dakota State matchup.
yeah, for I would say the Washington State and Drake. I saw on some polls that more people were taking Tennessee Drake over Washington State. But another matchup that would interest me is the FAU Northwestern game, with Northwestern having Boo Buie and then FAU getting all the way to the finals last year. It's just going to be a really good game back and forth. But FAU likes to play fast as well, but it's just going to be how is FAU going to stop the guards from Northwestern, because Northwestern likes to play a slow game. So I have Northwestern winning that one, but I think that's going to be a good one.
I'd say FAU and the Northwestern game as well. It's always fun seeing those seeds that are close together, and also just their different styles of play, and see how they'll play out against each other.
All right, I can't entice people too much by going right to the south. I got to drop to the west here. And so that's the region where we have North Carolina coming off of a ACC championship upset from NC State. You got New Mexico storming in there. You got Long Beach State, whose coach isn't even on contract for the next season. He was told he wasn't going to return heading into the conference tournament, and here they are marching on. And there's a lot of good storylines in this West region. My favorite upset here, and don't go crazy on me for this, I actually really like Grand Canyon over St. Mary's.
Yeah, Grand Canyon over St. Mary's I've seen has been a pretty popular upset in this region. But another one, I have Grand Canyon beating St. Mary's as well. And then I have 11 seed New Mexico over Clemson. New Mexico going through the gauntlet of the Mountain West tournament and taking down, I think they took down Colorado State and they took down San Diego State in the championship.
I love this New Mexico team. I mean, they're headed by Rick Pitino. He was up at Minnesota a few years ago. Yes, I can still make Minnesota connections however I go. But, I mean, this New Mexico team, in some of my brackets, I've had them all the way to the Sweet 16, if not the Elite 8. I mean, I'm a little bit crazy up here. But it's one of the teams that I like here to make a Cinderella run.
Say I'm not big into the West. I don't really watch a lot of these teams here, but definitely the Mississippi-Michigan. I know Michigan has always been a good team. North Carolina coming into this tournament, beating Duke. Duke has been struggling a little bit this year, though, too. Just excited to see how they'll do.
Yeah, I think coming out of this region, I think you gotta go with a strong bet here, and I actually think this might be the easiest. I think this might be the wackiest region there is. I think you could pick just about 8 different teams, and I could tell you, I think they could do it. And so maybe my favorite is Arizona, but I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, the team that I have coming out of this region is North Carolina. I've been pretty high on North Carolina. They have a lot of depth and a lot of different options to score on, like R.J. Davis, Armando Bacot, and they have Ingram too on that team. They can go a multitude of ways on that offense. So I've been high on them, and they dismantled Duke twice, and one of those times was on Duke's home floor at Cameron Indoor. So it's just that's the team I've been high on, and I in one of my brackets I picked them to win it all. So I think I'm pretty high on them in this tournament. But seeing them lose to NC State was kind of alarming. But NC State was just on a team playing good at the right time in March.
And I can't wait to talk about them later, but one of my favorite matchups in this first round, I'm not even going to touch on Dayton. I don't know why Dayton's the 7th seed. I don't know why they're in this tournament. They haven't beat any other tournament teams. I mean, I don't know why they're a 7 seed, all these NET rankings and whatnot, but I'm going to be really interested to see how this Baylor-Colgate game goes down. Colgate's a team who's been playing feisty in the first round before. I mean, they could potentially do it again.
Yeah, and Baylor has gotten upset by teams in the Patriot League and in the Ivy League in the past, losing to Yale and then getting that post-game interview from Tayshaun Prince talking about rebounding the ball. So I could definitely see Baylor losing that one in this region, but it's going to be interesting for sure. But yeah, I'm high on North Carolina too for this one for sure.
Trinity, any more thoughts on the West region?
Not really. I think you guys summed it up really well.
Heading over to the Midwest. I'm saving Nebraska for last. Anyway, here's where we got Purdue. There's where we got Gonzaga, who's a lower seed than they have been in previous years. Does this region have a big powerhouse conference champion in it? I don't think it has Oregon, but they're 11 seed and they're a bid thief. Is there an actual conference champion in this region?
And there is not, I don't think. From at least the Power 6 conferences, none of the powerhouses. Then you have number 4 Kansas, which they're
injured.
They're injured.
They're all injured.
Yeah, but if they get the one thing back that Kansas fans, if they get Kevin McCullough back for the tournament, they think they have a good shot. But not having Hunter Dickinson is not very good for them.
This is the upset-heavy region. Like, in one of my brackets, I'm not even joking, I have St. Peter's over Tennessee. Tennessee plays their worst basketball in March time after time. I'm just saying. I'm putting it out there. I'm bringing the fire, bringing the heat, whatever we're called. And, I mean, Samford over Kansas. You can say, I have McNeese over Gonzaga. That's a 5-12 matchup. That's doomed for Gonzaga to lose. South Carolina against Oregon? Well, sure, why not go with Oregon? I don't know, but any of these teams can go. And did I mention that also in this region, we're going to have Colorado State taking on Texas if they beat Virginia? I like Colorado State in that matchup, too. I love all the upsets.
Yeah, this region, it kind of shocked me when I was looking at the brackets that Colorado State was a 10 seed because they were one of the best teams in the Mountain West all year long. And then I don't think Virginia should have made it. Virginia plays so slow on offense. They can't score the ball. They struggle with nearly every team they play in the ACC tournament. I think the Big East Conference really got screwed out of a lot of spots here. Like I think teams like Seton Hall, St. John's, and Providence could have made it in over a Virginia, maybe even a Dayton, because Dayton lost to St. Bonaventure in their conference tournament. So I don't know. I feel like the Big East is the best conference in basketball, and they only getting 3 teams in is kind of criminal in my opinion.
And not to mention, you said about Colorado State, that's the first 4 game. Both Colorado State and Boise State are playing games as 10 seeds. What happened to the days of the 11 seed playing games? Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, I don't know. They must have switched that up this year. It's always been the 2 11 seeds playing the 6 seed, but maybe they thought these teams were worthy of the 10 seed, or maybe they did something in the offseason where they switched up that playing games. I'm not for sure, but this will be an interesting region because I have McNeese over Gonzaga, but I've made so many brackets. It's hard to keep track of every single bracket that I've had. So McNeese has been my upset. I also have Colorado State over Texas.
Quick question: how many brackets do you normally fill out during March? And I'd say I probably make about 10.
I would say on the ESPN app, it caps you out at 25, and I want to try and get that perfect bracket. So I have 25. Usually I'm at like 9 right now. And then on this Hoop Frenzy app that I use, and I have 2 made on that, and then so I have 11 right now made.
Nice. I still gotta get work on mine. I'm only at 5 right now. I gotta do better. I need to get it up there. Trinity, how about you?
Guys, I'm slacking. I don't even have one bracket made up yet.
Well, that's the first thing I do whenever that bracket gets released. I'm like, let's fill out a bracket.
Yeah, that's how I was. Right after I went to the Tournament Challenge app, the ESPN app, and looked, and nothing was. It said I had to wait 15 minutes for the brackets to come out still, so I wasn't there right, or had to wait a little bit.
All right, my favorite to come out of this region. Everybody's high on Creighton, but don't overlook Akron. I've had them in my random bracket. They're selected as a champion. Come on, Akron might have a shot. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm not a huge fan of Zach Edey. I don't know if they'll reach the Final Four this year. I mean, this might even be more of a toss-up than the West. I'm not entirely sure about that, but sure, Nebraska Creighton fans, I'll pick Creighton for this region.
Oh, yeah, I would say my pick for this region, for the most part, would be I have Creighton as well, and then I have Tennessee in my other one because I don't trust Purdue, but I have Gonzaga in my Elite Eight.
Not to mention even the fact that last year there were no top 3 seeds at all in the Final Four. I mean, a lot of the teams we're talking about are top 3 seeds, and this year's been crazier than last.
Yeah, you see a lot of analysts only picking 1 and 2 seeds, and then for Shannon Sharp, the former tight end for the Broncos, and he was on the Ravens at one point. He picked all 1 seeds for the men's and the women's brackets, and this dude gets paid to talk about sports on ESPN.
And then you have Stephen A. Smith doing all 1 seeds minus Texas A&M. What are you doing there? What are you doing? Trinity, who you like out of this region?
Ooh, that's a tough call. I really like Creighton. And then I'd like to see, honestly, the Texas-Virginia-Colorado matchup. I don't know. I'm also kind of a Texas fan, so there's some little bit of a bias there, but I'd like to see how far they'd make the run.
So you're from South Dakota. How are you a Texas fan?
Great question. My dad, I guess, always grew up being a Texas fan, and I just get it from my dad, I guess.
All right, let's move to the region everybody wants to talk about, the South region. Nebraska, Texas A&M. Trev Alberts leaves for Texas A&M. Oh, we got this matchup now. Well, now what's happened is it's not about the players anymore. It's entirely about Trev Alberts. And I don't like that very much. I mean, man. Now here's where you got some of the blue bloods. You got Duke and you got Kentucky. You got the newcomers of Houston and Marquette. And, man, you got NC State in here who won the ACC championship. 5 wins in 5 days. That was super impressive. My favorite upset here is, I'm not going for the Catamounts. I thought about going for the Catamounts momentarily, but I like NC State. Give me that upset.
Yeah, my upset in this one, I have a couple. I have Vermont over Duke, but then my main one, I came to look at, I was watching them in their conference championship game, and Marquette always fumbles in March. They do not play well. I got the Hilltoppers. I got Western Kentucky over Marquette.
Okay.
They're in the Ken Palm rankings. They play the fastest out of any team in the NCAA in Division I. So if they're hitting their shots and they're playing fast and speeding up Marquette, I think Marquette's in some trouble in the first round.
Give me Duke to the Final Four. Come on, let's do it. I mean, the years in previous years, this was back in the days of Coach K. Whenever they played well during the regular season, they did not play well in March. Whenever they didn't play well in the regular season, they played really well in March. And so you don't know what to expect with this Duke team. Maybe this is the year that they make a run. I mean, they're a 4 seed this year. Why not?
Yeah, I don't think so, but you never know. Because watching Duke getting dismantled by North Carolina twice in the season is just like, it's not Duke-like, but you could be true.
This is March. This is March.
I'm sorry, Ford, but Duke's not making it out of the. I could see them making it out maybe to the Sweet 16, but I don't think they're going to get past Houston, in which Houston is winning my region. For me, I have Kentucky as in my Elite Eight with Houston. And back to the Western Kentucky thing, the team that FDU last year, Fairleigh Dickinson, the 16 seed that beat Purdue, they played fast and they trapped and ran a press the whole game. So I think Western Kentucky can do that same thing against Marquette. So.
I loved Kentucky early on this season. I thought if they would just get healthy, they could be a really good team this year. But I don't think they ever really gelled together. And that makes it hard for them to go. But I actually like them as an Elite Eight squad.
Yeah, I could. They definitely have the talent to honestly get out of this region. It's just if they're going to put up 4 straight games together, or 3 straight games, to get there into that Elite Eight. But then So yeah, this could be a lot of interesting matchups here, because then a lot of people are rooting for James Madison over Wisconsin, and
Chucky.
Yeah.
Chucky.
in which Wisconsin got runner-ups in the Big Ten tournament, in which I was hoping my Nebraska Cornhuskers would match up against Chucky Hepburn from Bellevue West High School.
Hey, you know what? When we talk about Chucky, did you see the reaction on his face whenever they revealed that they were the 5 seed? He was not happy at all. He was not satisfied. But he is one of the best defenders I've ever seen. He is so good at locking down the ball.
Yeah, he was guarding Terrence Shannon Jr. for most of that game, which Terrence Shannon Jr. still had I think he had 30-plus points in that game, but there's a lot of switching involved, and Chucky, when he was on him, he was face guarding him, chasing him around the whole court, trying to shut him down. So that was a fun matchup to watch between Illinois and Wisconsin. But yeah, he wasn't. I feel like I would be kind of the same type of way after losing a tough game like that. There's not a lot of emotion, because he maybe thought they were going to get a 4 seed or a 3 seed there.
I don't know. Nebraska, I'm not from Nebraska, so I don't really have a lot of emotion between.
Neither am I. I could care less about Nebraska. I mean, we'll get to it later, but, Nebraska, Texas A&M, that will be interesting. You know what? To make my aunt happy, I'll go Texas A&M. For some reason, if I pick a team that she's rooting for, they're going to lose. I don't know why that is, but that's what usually happens. That's how the Chiefs won the Super Bowl. And so she can thank me for that, but I'll just say Texas A&M.
That's good to hear then. If you're going to pick them, they're going to lose, because I'm going. I think that's 100% the matchup. In my opinion, I feel like a lot of people on social media are the same way. The matchup of this region is definitely in the first round is Nebraska versus Texas A&M, with the whole storyline of Trev Alberts going to Texas A&M, and then the women's team, which we'll get to later in a little bit. The women's team is also matched up against Texas A&M in the first round, which is. I bet that wasn't planned at all. There's no way. But yeah, definitely was. But I think Nebraska, if they can have a fast start and get shooting, get Keisei Tominaga, Bryce Williams, and the guys get shooting for the free throw or for the 3-point line, and I'm playing good defense, I think Nebraska has a good shot at this. But Texas A&M is one of the hottest teams coming into this tournament.
And I mean, they put it on a Friday night too. They didn't even try to put it during the daytime. They put it right when everybody could see it. That's exciting. Trinity, any last thoughts here?
Not necessarily.
Okay, I want to ask this question here before we wrap up. I want 2 things. Who do you like to win it all? And which 16 seed do you like to upset a 1 seed? Those are the 2 questions I want to know. And you know what? Man, it's tough to go anywhere, but why not? Let's pick Montana State to upset Purdue. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just throwing it out there.
I was looking at the Montana State or Grambling State game against Purdue, but I feel like that's too much of a layup, because Purdue just lost to a 16 seed. They're going to come into that game pretty angry, wanting to make sure they get past the 16 seed. So I'm going to pick Longwood against Houston, because Longwood, they were in the tournament a couple years ago. They were a solid team, and Houston just came off that loss against Iowa State. Houston is really good defensively, but they can get slow and sloppy on the offensive side of the ball. So I'm picking Longwood.
Trinity?
That was going to be my matchup, the Houston versus Longwood.
Okay. National champion, I'm going Duke.
I'm going with America's favorite, UConn.
All right.
Ooh, I got to go North Carolina.
My underdog is Auburn, though. I will say that. That is my underdog.
Yeah, I could agree with that. Either, let's say my underdog to go. Yeah, I get Auburn or San Diego State. Either one of those teams are both good on defense. They can both score the ball pretty well. And San Diego State was there last year, so I could see either of those teams maybe getting out of that region, maybe pulling off the upset on UConn.
And I assume it's South Dakota State for you, Trinity?
Yes.
All right. Let's shift gears over to the women. A little less time on that, mainly because I didn't get to watch much men's basketball this year. I watched even less women's. I watched the Iowa-Nebraska game, but that is probably about it in terms of women's basketball this year. And so I'm just going to look at this bracket, and I'm going to say this. South Carolina is probably going to win it all, but please let me see South Carolina and LSU play. I really want to see that. Please.
Yeah, and so I Oh, I guess you want to count the women's brackets. I've made 12 brackets. So, so, I have I guess we'll go with the champions right away. My final four is South Carolina and then Texas coming out of those regions, and then I have Iowa and UConn on the other side. Then I have Iowa and South Carolina my championship. But the thing that interested me about this is seeing LSU and Iowa in the same region this year instead of being in the national championship. There was a lot of beef and a lot of publicity that women's basketball got from that Iowa.
Good or bad?
I would say it was good. They had over, I think it was it 5 million people watched their game?
I don't know, but I turned it on as soon as I heard pretty much everybody got ejected.
Yeah, or that was LSU and South Carolina.
Oh yeah, Nebraska, Iowa.
I'm talking about Iowa and LSU and last year's
Iowa,
championship.
LSU. Okay, see, I heard LSU and then my brain just went going. I'm tired. It's been a full day of classes, but I can tell you, I think I turned on that game. I'm not entirely sure, but I think I did. I couldn't tell you anything about it though.
Yeah, well, that was the whole thing on social media where Caitlin Clark was doing the "You Can't See Me" to Atlanta against, but against in the Elite game against Louisville, and then she did it back here at the end of the game. But I don't know. I would be rooting for Iowa in that game for how much I don't really like Iowa that much. I'm less of a fan of Kim Mulkey and LSU.
Oh yeah, I can't stand Kim Mulkey. I mean, but what's interesting is we could have an Iowa LSU game. That could be interesting. I mean,
yeah,
Caitlin Clark versus Kim Mulkey, sign me up. That sounds interesting right then and there. But South Carolina, USC, that's a sleeper team as a 1 seed. I mean, not many people talk about the USC and Juju Watkins, but I mean, hey, they can make a storm there.
Yeah, if they get hot and at the right time. But for the women's, for my sleeper team, I have the Nebraska Cornhuskers. No bias at all, but I have them beating Texas A&M and then beating 3-seeded Oregon State, and then losing to Notre Dame in the Sweet 16. But Jazz Shelley and the girls, if they can get going for the 3-point line just like the men's team, I could see them upsetting the team here in the second round.
I mean, as an upset team, I mean, I got to find somebody who can actually be considered as an upset. I don't think LSU gets that far. But give me the pride of Minnesota in women's hoops and give me Paige Beckers. I got to pronounce that right and learn that. And UConn. Just let them ride. They'll make their way eventually. UConn has been there, done that. And they haven't done it for a little bit. So maybe. Trinity, what you got?
For winning, I would definitely go for South Carolina. Like you mentioned before, like seeing the Iowa LSU game rematch up would be really fun, but also having that before, like in the same conference or region is kind of interesting. But I don't know about like the championship. I would like to see Iowa, of course, versus South Carolina, but I just believe South Carolina's just their style of play is way different. They're just a much bigger team.
Dawn Staley's just built different. Yeah. I mean, she coaches an elite squad.
Yes, and them literally going with no losses on the season too is pretty impressive. But that's also a lot of pressure going into the tournament without having any losses. No room for messing up.
All right, any last thoughts here on the women's bracket before we take our first break?
Nothing for me. I guess South Carolina, what you said was is the most physical team and has the most size. So I think they're going to get it done this year.
All right, let me ask this question. How many games do you typically watch on average during March Madness, like at a single time? I'd say I'm typically watching 3, if 4, if I can make it. If I have enough screens, I'll watch 4.
Yeah, usually in my last year, March Madness fell over spring break, and so we had 3 TVs set up in my basement going at the same time.
Trinity, are you that crazy over March?
I cannot say I even have enough TVs to set up during that. I normally just end up at a sports bar or whatever with all the TVs going and kind of take a glance at all of them. I'd say that's honestly my favorite way to do it because, yeah, there's always something going on.
All right, well, that wraps up our first segment talking about March Madness. Whenever we get back, we'll be talking Lopers and recapping the winter sports season. Trinity will tell you all about women's basketball. That's her place. We'll look ahead at the coaching search at the men's team. Wrestling just had a phenomenal weekend at Nationals. And then, hey, that'll be coming up next here on KLPR.
each night. Getting adequate sleep is beneficial to both your mental and physical health. It could also improve your daily performance. Your immune system will be boosted after a good night's rest. The risk of heart disease and diabetes can also be lowered by getting enough sleep. You can improve your sleep by better managing your time and setting a bedtime for yourself or having a comfortable sleeping environment that accommodates your needs. For more information, please visit sleepfoundation.org.
Grandpa is getting older and he keeps forgetting my name, but he never forgets his morning coffee.
I started drinking coffee in college so I could stay up to study, but I kept it up after college because it helped me stay on top of my stressful job.
An unhealthy amount of coffee throughout a day can change your lifetime.
Grandpa, are you okay?
Increased coffee intake can lead to a higher risk of memory loss and heart disease. If you or someone you know is consuming too much coffee, visit mayoclinic.org or call 507-284-2511.
Eating healthier snacks is a great alternative to the regular fatty snacks like chips, candy, and more. Eating healthy snacks can improve your overall health and decrease your chance for things like diabetes in your future.
Snacking can even out your blood sugar levels so you don't experience the spikes of insulin that can even lead to weight gain.
Healthy snacks don't have to be boring. Choosing to eat healthy can mean munching on salty popcorn or yogurt with fresh berries. It can even mean treating yourself to delicious dark chocolate.
Look for snacks that are low in sugar, fat, and salt. Try to find snacks that are high in nutrients such as fiber and protein. For more information on healthy snacking, visit AmericanHeartAssociation.org.
Hey, is that your second one today?
I just can't focus without energy drinks.
Did you know that a large energy drink contains as much as 27 teaspoons of sugar?
That might be why I'm feeling a sugar crash.
The CDC recommends that people aged over 18 years old should not exceed over 400 milligrams of caffeine in a day.
Shoot, I didn't know that. I need to change my habits.
Exceeding these recommendations could cause irregular heartbeat and heart failure.
Now that I know this information, I will monitor my caffeine intake better.
For more information, visit cdc.gov/healthyschools/nutrition/energy.
Back here in KLPR studios, back on bringing the heat, and we brought a little bit of heat in our first segment. Here's where we might bring a little bit more. We're circling over to the Loper side of things and finishing up the winter season. So I'm Elijah Mosher, joining alongside Kade Moore. Vida Cabrera cannot be with us today. And we also got fifth-year senior from the women's basketball team, Trinity Law, who will surely spice things up because that's where we're going first. We're going right to women's basketball. It's a great season for the women. First year under Drew Johnson, went 19-11. Tried to make a run down in Kansas City, but Northwest Missouri just hit all the defensive breaks and did everything right to get past us. Trinity, what did you notice from the season?
From the overall season, I think it impressed a lot of people just because going into it, everyone was saying how it was such a rebuild from losing so many seniors last year and then losing Sarah Schmidt to the transfer portal, following coaches to Idaho. But so I think everyone kind of underestimated us as a whole and just what we have, I suppose. And from that, I think we were able to catch teams by surprise just because also with Drew Johnson coming in, we played a lot faster than we have in the past. So we were able to run some people, play a little bit different style, get more transition buckets, and utilize the game in a different way.
You're not going wrong when you're talking about fast. He loves that transition game. That's what he really, really loves. And I mean, you can't talk about it enough. And it was really interesting. That was my first year watching, and it was going good until people started getting injured. I know Kyle Wilson went down injured. She came back later on the season, but just that shooting touch was never quite the same underneath the hoop. You tore your PCL in the Central Missouri game. I was there.
That was not fun. It was also in the first minute, which is probably the worst part of it.
I mean, as soon as that happened, it's like, oh no, what just happened? But it was a good season.
It was, yeah. Apart from the injuries, because we also had Sam Moore. She's been battling injuries throughout her entire career, but especially within the first half, we really didn't have her either because she was battling some knee and back stuff. So then, although obviously we don't want anyone to get hurt, she was healthy by the time I got hurt, so she was able to transition to that role, although it was a lot faster than anyone would want to, getting back and getting able to play again.
It's always great whenever you can say, well, I got injured, but luckily this other injured person got back before I got injured, so we had them available. That's always great. I mean, Cade, what'd you take away from the season?
Well, with Drew Johnson and his play style, when you have a player like Jillian Ashoff that's always looking up to pass it up to whoever, a shooter or like Bailey Sozak or Kaya Wilson under the basket, like it's fun to have a girl on your team like that. So I don't blame him for wanting to play fast constantly. So, but yeah, it was just a little bit of it was a good season for the Lopers, just a little up and down at times, but they were definitely fun to watch for sure.
That Central Missouri game was a lot of fun, though. I enjoyed that one. Talk about a fun little upset. Those Central Missouri games were close all season long, too.
Absolutely, yeah. Even going into their place, it was a tight game for most of it. And then I think ended up late. They just ended up stretching out a little bit.
And, okay, we got to talk about the All-MIAA people and, okay, All-MIAA team. How is Jillian Ashoff an honorable mention? Like, can we talk about that? She was so outstanding as the point guard in her sophomore season, and she was close to averaging triple-double numbers. Like, it was crazy what she was doing out there.
Absolutely. And I think, unfortunately, I think it's because a lot of people look at scoring and they don't really look at the other things. But even though, like, she was getting triple-doubles anyways with her size, going up to grab boards.
It's crazy.
Her assists by being able, the way she runs and gets those transition points, gets posts running down the floor. And she just really has a good vision of the floor overall, no matter where she's at, being able to get people in the right positions to get them to succeed.
And then McCool landing on the All-MIAA second team. And so, I mean, a little less recognition than we might have thought. But, I mean, it was a great season, Cade. Any thoughts you got there?
Well, Charlotte McCool, that's kind of a no-doubter. She was the double-double machine all year long, so her making the second team. But I agree with Jillian. Jillian should have been on one of the top MIAA teams because even, gosh, she only averaged maybe 9 points or 10 points, but then she tagged along with maybe 7 or 8 rebounds every game with at least 6, 5 assists. And then also she was a really good defender. She had at least 3, almost averaged 3 steals a game.
Next year is going to be a lot of fun. I can say that. That's going to be a lot of fun. Trinity, how many games are you planning to be back for?
I don't know. With being back home, I'll be back in South Dakota, so 5-hour drive. But I'll definitely plan to make a few games. That'd be really fun.
Now we have to make the shift to men's basketball. Their season, talk about topsy-turvy. They were in the game with Southern Nazarene. It was 81 all. They lose that game late by 2 down in Oklahoma. Then the day before their second game of the year in Chadron State, Kevin Lofton resigns over his contract was going to end, and so instead of waiting for that contract to end, he resigned. And so now who takes the reins? Antoine Young. Well then, what are we expecting heading to Chadron State? Who knows? And then that was a whopper of a game, 113-101. That was one of my favorite games to watch. That pace, you talk about a fast game. That was so fast. That was like you're putting people in a blender and they're moving faster than that. And that was crazy. And then they go beat Western Colorado, lose a couple games. Then they beat Northeastern State. And then they got the Missouri Western game, in which they upset what was a ranked Missouri Western team at the time in the season debut of Demary Lindo with a half-court buzzer beater knocked down by Lindo. And then they only won one game the rest of the year. They finished 5-22. I mean, Trinity, do you have any idea what went wrong with this squad this year?
I don't know. I think it was just kind of the switching coaching staff and Antoine always being seen as more of like the comfort guys can go to. So I think throughout the season, the guys were kind of used to that and kind of laid back a little bit in a way and just kind of mellowed out. And I think that ended up hurting them. Also, as being an athlete, losing your coach right at the beginning of the season is kind of hectic and just hard to deal with to begin with, and that was a lot of pressure to put on Coach Young anyways, being the only coach, and then bringing Matt Bryan on as an assistant, but still having that relationship with the athletes, it was just kind of all of a weird circumstance, I guess.
Yeah, definitely losing the head coach was definitely like a tough thing to deal with in the middle of the season, but I don't know, after they beat the Missouri Western, which Missouri Western was undefeated at the time, and seeing them beat Northeastern State, maybe and beating Missouri Western, I thought maybe this team could crack that double-digit win mark, not make it to the MIAA tournament or anything, but be competitive. Because, like, a lot of the games I did call, they were competitive in the first half, and then in the second half, like, they would just go ISO, they would stop sharing the ball, and then they would shoot a quick shot in 10 seconds and not make the defense work at all. And then on defense, they would just come a little lackadaisical at times. So it was just, I thought the team had talent enough. I just feel like the mindset need to switch. So hopefully they can bring in a new head coach that brings in a culture that playing hard constantly, no matter what happens. So they need to bring somebody that can develop a culture for this team. Okay,
I don't know how many of you guys know this. They graduate too. They only have 2 players left on their roster.
Yeah, I'll go here.
And so like a bunch of them transferred out, including the Gatorade Player of the Year from Colorado last year, and DeAndre Samuels.
Yeah, so on this roster I have in front of me, the only players that are returning right now are Tom Conley. He's the 6'6" junior, and then Clayton Moore. He was a redshirt freshman. Didn't play a game for the Lopers, and then Ryder Kirsch and Winston Cook both graduating, and then Miguel Robles, DeAndre Samuels, Sean Evans, Demir Lindo, Bryson Goldsmith, Donovan Short, Sean Murphy, Tatum King, and Austin Therese are all not coming back. So it's going to be a brand new team and a bunch of new names to learn for us next year, and it's going to be a very interesting season.
And I cannot wait to see where that lands in terms of the head coach, because they have a lot of work to do on the transfer side of things. I'm going to circle back momentarily. Have we heard of any transfers on the women's team? I don't see those as much as I see the men's team, but Trinity, you would probably know best.
Yeah, I believe there's a couple. There always is, like, every year, and especially this year with the coaching change. I believe that was hard on some people. So we do have. I don't know if they're in the transfer portal yet, so I don't really want to say for sure.
Okay, so if you don't know, then it's best not. But so we assume there could be a couple in the transfer portal this year for the women's.
Yes, absolutely. Just through coaching change, some people missing home, things like that, or just, of course, people want some more playing time, and then that in combination with wanting to be closer to home.
And we'll leave it at that. And so the men's team looking for a new head coach, and so things will look very different, and it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I heard that. I'm not sure. This is just things I've heard around the athletic department, but that there was 150 applicants for the position.
Wow.
And yeah, they're trying to break it down to at least have 10 Zoom calls with coaches, and then eventually bring 3 final coaches here on campus and kind of go from there.
I'm kind of impressed that there were 150.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I heard from Alex Hammock. He was talking about that, and he thinks there was 150 at the time when people found out. But he said there would be possibly even more applicants than 150 now. But they just need somebody to come in that's going to make these kids play hard and play together.
What you need in this next head coach is somebody who can work that transfer portal, because you need a whole new roster, and so you need somebody who is personable with the players and that can bring in transfers. That's what you need.
Yeah, when they see a roster with only 2 people and some guy on another Division II school, or maybe even a Division I squad that's not getting a lot of playing time, and he wants to get out on the court, he's definitely going to see UNK and maybe possibly come to UNK. So yeah, hopefully they can get a coach that's a good recruiter and get some assistants that can go out and scout some kids during the AAU season in the summer.
Trinity, final thoughts?
Yeah, I was going to say, although it might be scary and intimidating, I think it's also a great opportunity just for that coach to come in and have a rebuild and kind of have a pick at his players. Also will definitely help, because then he kind of gets the chance to build his own culture right off the bat, instead of having to wait until kids eventually leave or graduate, transfer, whatever that may be. And just also Kearney having a lot to offer as a campus. It's a beautiful town and a beautiful area, so they can definitely use that to their advantage, and also just being able to play D2 basketball in a very competitive league.
And this is basically where you can go ahead and go, hey, I got a blank slate. I can bring in whoever wants to come, who's ever in the portal. I can create my own sort of redeem team and try to redeem what this UNK men's team has become. And so very interested to see where that goes. UNK Wrestling was at the D2 Championships in Wichita over the weekend, and they come away with a 3rd place finish. finishing behind Central Oklahoma, who finishes first for the second straight year, and Lander, both of which were the two varsity losses in the 2 play for the Lopers. And so that's very interesting. We covered 3 Loper wrestling matches on KLPR this winter. We had the Newman. We had, I can't remember the second one we had, but it was a top school in the NAIA ranks. And then we had the big Central Oklahoma senior night matchup. And they were all really fun, really exciting. And so it's really exciting to see where this Loper wrestling team has gone. They brought home some hardware. And Nick James finished second as a fifth-year senior from the 141 weight-pound class. But Billy Higgins coming back from injury as a fifth-year senior. He did really well, finishing third place. Crew Howard finished third. Jackson Kinsella fourth. Zach Arada fifth. It was a really exciting weekend for the Lopers in Wichita.
Yeah, the Loper squad has always had a really rich tradition in having success down there at the NCAA Division II tournament, and then with Central Oklahoma, they were the champs of it, and they defended their national title down there at the national championships. So it's kind of cool seeing another MIAA school go out there and do that.
Very much so. And I don't know why we do this on our schedule. I notice that they don't do this on other team schedules, but for ours, we count our non-varsity matchups in our record. So I don't count those. So we really only had 3 losses. We lost to Stanford. You're going to lose to Stanford. They're a D1 team in wrestling. They're D1 in all sports. But, that's probably going to happen. And then they lost to Lander 13-20. And then they lost to Central Oklahoma 13-20 as well. So very, very successful season for Lopers, Trinity.
Absolutely. Wrestling has always been a huge part of UNK, and a lot of people come here for wrestling. I know even back home when there was mention of me coming here, a lot of wrestlers around the area were talking about UNK and how good they are at wrestling. So it's always good to see them finish out on top or pretty close.
And let me just say this. I come from a wrestling school as well in Columbus High. Very, very wrestling heavy. But how many wrestling duels did you guys go out to this year? 0? Zero?
I went to at least not like UNK wrestling, but in high school I went to a couple North Platte duels when they had them.
I went to 3 high school duels and then 3 UNK duels and then 2 Columbus High duels. Trinity, did you get out to any during your career?
I did not. I made it out to 1, but
okay, just making sure on there. I will ask the hard questions, but very successful season. I know West Ferguson and the track team had a very successful indoor season as well, but for time purposes, we're going to pivot over to the spring a little bit and talking about one sport specifically because we are the exclusive home for Loper softball. So are on the MIAA network for those games. Currently sitting at 13-14, a little bit of up and down season, and it'll be interesting to see what they can do. They're undefeated at home so far this season, and they're back at home this weekend taking on Fort Hays State, and so it'll be a lot of interesting things there. What have we learned from the softball team so far early on?
The softball team, they've had a lot of young girls come up and step up right away. I don't know the names as of such, but listening on on KLPR, they've had a freshman pitcher. She's been really solid for the Lopers, so it's nice to see a lot of freshmen and sophomore players come out and compete and play well for the Lopers. So you like to see that, and you get excited for the future for them.
Trinity?
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of opportunity with this team, and just all of what's to come for them. I haven't been able to keep up much with softball, so I don't really have a ton to say.
I've been stuck on winter so far, so making that transition period, we're not going to talk about them too much, but I am going to say this Saturday, March 23rd, doubleheader against Fort Hays State, 1 and 3 o'clock. Myself and Ethan McCormick on the call for that game. It'll be lots of fun. Potential for snow, so it could get pushed ahead a day. We'll see. But you can figure all that kind of information out by going to KLPR's Twitter account, KLPR911. That's KLPR911 on Twitter, and you can get all of those updates right then and there. And so really excited to be a part of the softball coverage this spring. All three of us will be covering different games. Trinity, you'll make your softball debut the following weekend with the Washburn games, and it'll be plenty of fun. But we're not done yet. We're going to take one more break, but then we got our final 10 minutes here coming up on 91.1 KLPR.
What are you eating there?
Oh, I'm eating a protein ball.
What's that?
It's a ball of protein. It's made from healthy things like oats and peanut butter and can save you tons of money compared to buying processed snacks.
Well, that just sounds like a hassle to make, and I would rather just have a bag of chips.
These are full of fiber and can keep you energized through the whole day. There are a lot of different snacks that can be made at home that offer you more nutritional value than processed snacks. There's a ton of other things like trail mix, grapes, cheese, crackers, carrots, and endless possibilities with homemade creations.
Oh wow, all those do sound good. To learn more about snacking healthy, visit myplate.gov.
Movie prices are so expensive. I wish there was an affordable alternative.
Well, you're in luck. If you're looking for a place with great movie titles for an affordable price, the World Theater is the place for you. The World Theater in downtown Kearney offers a plethora of movies. For $5, you can watch a new movie every weekend. While you watch, don't forget to visit the concession stand that is also easy on the wallet. Showtimes are Fridays and Saturdays at 7:30 and Sundays at 2. For more information, visit their website at theworldtheater.org.
Wow, I'm going to the World Theater. You guys, I am so tired and I have a splitting headache. I just don't feel like myself.
How much water have you had today?
Not much. And why should I care about this anyway?
Hydration affects your mood, brain function, and improves sleep quality. There are many ways to stay hydrated.
And it's easier than you think. Eating water-rich fruits and vegetables is a great way to stay hydrated. You can also enjoy your favorite drinks like tea or juice.
Wow, I had no idea.
Staying hydrated is both important and easy. Listen to your body. Hydrate more.
For more information, go to thewholeu.uw.edu.
Boy, am I tired.
What did you have for breakfast this morning?
I only had a cup of coffee. I'm still waiting for the caffeine to kick in.
This conversation sounds all too familiar. College students tend to skip breakfast without knowing the impact it has on their education. Here's how it should go.
I feel great this morning. I'm ready to take on the day.
Man, how did you do it?
I followed MyPlate's guidelines for a healthy breakfast.
For an optimal breakfast, choose foods from each of the MyPlate food groups.
Eating a healthy breakfast kickstarts a successful day. When you feed your body, you're feeding your mind too.
Go to myplate.gov for more information.
Back here in KLPR studios with Bringing the Heat, Elijah Mosier alongside Kade Moore, Trinity Law. And you know what? It is time to talk about the thing that doesn't matter to some people. It's called the National Invitational Tournament, the NIT. And you know what? For me, it makes me super happy because Minnesota's there this year. They're taking on Butler in the first round. And so I cannot be more happy as a Minnesota fan from going from picked last to finish in the Big Ten to being in the NIT. But the big table discussion that we saved for the end, and this is where I'm really excited to hear Trinity's perspective on it, is when you get to the end of the season and you're watching the selection show and you don't see your name come up, does that drain enough from you to where you don't want to play even if you get an opportunity to play in another tournament? And so, Trinity, I'll go to you first. If your name were to not come up on Selection Sunday, which it did not come up for the Lopers, and we're kind of expecting that, especially with the way that the season played out, and you got invited to play in a different tournament, what would you want to do? Would you want to play in that tournament, even if it isn't the big dance?
So that is such a hard question. I feel like it varies from player to player. Definitely, it would be disappointing not seeing your name come up on that Selection Sunday, being able to play in the big dance on the biggest stage. But as an overall competitor, depending where you're at in your career too, and just what your situation looks like, I think as a competitor, no matter what, you're going to want to go out there and play games and hopefully get a championship to bring home for your school in some sort. So,
yeah, well, as a player, I feel like after my senior year of basketball, it's not the same as obviously college, but I would have liked to play in another tournament or game, not making the state tournament. So I kind of disagree with all these players and coaches not wanting to come out here and play, because I was listening to in between one of the games, a former head coach of Indiana, Tom Crean, was going after all these players and saying, this is like terrible, that because probably some of those players on those teams wanted to play another game at their home arena, which they do in that first round of the NIT tournament. So he was very upset, and he was saying that they should get whatever coaches want to go coach and whatever players want to go play should go out there and play. And he thinks that it was a kind of a load of crap that some teams that decided to leave or not playing it, which I understand for some of those teams like St. John's. They were worthy of making it and thought they got cheated out and probably didn't want to have no motivation to play in those.
But it's a time where you can prove yourself. If you can win that NIT, then you can come back and say, hey, this is what we did. We should have been in the first place, instead of being like, oh, you didn't pick us. We think we're better than that. But hey, well, our season's done. We don't care. I mean, I don't like that mentality at all. I mean, Trinity, you're shaking your head.
It's definitely hard because it is a long season and it is just mentally, physically draining the way it is. So with especially being in that position, having your hopes up, thinking you have a strong chance of making it to the dance, it would be really disappointing and deflating not to be able to make it. And that would be hard because once you lose that energy and that hope as a person, like just as an individual and then as a team, it's kind of becomes a culture thing. And then from there, it becomes really hard to get that motivation back and want to play in a different tournament.
Well, coming from a Minnesota perspective on this, I watched the last half of the season just going, NIT, NIT. Because I was so happy that we were finally making grounds. And so, like, there's that side of the argument where you just barely missed the cut to the big dance, and you're just happy that you made such an improvement that you can be in the NIT, such as Minnesota.
Yeah, that was like Nebraska. Last year, Nebraska got hot at the end of the year last year. That's when Keisei Tominaga really took a big jump of last season. So I was rooting for Nebraska to win every game. We're about a 500 team, and then which Minnesota did beat Nebraska in the first round of the Big Ten tournament. So you always want to root for a team that's kind of doubted, and then you make it to the NIT. It's definitely an improvement. It's definitely a thing. Teams that are not as good or maybe don't have the chance of making it to the NCAA tournament to look forward to, in my opinion. And which I think, one more thing was I kind of thought Indiana State should have made it with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, his nickname is, or whatever they say.
Who'd they beat? Who was their best one?
They almost beat Michigan State.
They almost beat Michigan State, a number 9 seed in March Madness.
I don't know. They beat Virginia. That's all I say.
They beat Virginia? That's a first 4 team.
Yeah, and they can get in the first 4. That's what I'm saying.
Here's the thing. You have to schedule tough non-conference opponents because otherwise nobody knows if you're qualified enough. That's the problem with Indiana State. I mean, I can look at all those metrics such as the NET and I'm like, sure, they look like a team that should be in. But what did they do on the court that proved it to me there? Nothing. They didn't beat anybody.
Well, we'll see if they can beat Minnesota in the second round, if Minnesota can even get out of that first round. So
I would welcome that matchup against Indiana State. We would lose, but I would be happy to lose to the Sycamores because I'm just happy that we made it.
Well, Minnesota did beat a tournament team in Nebraska, so you could say. Or maybe, did they beat Michigan State in Minnesota too?
I think we beat Michigan State this year, yeah.
Yeah.
We had a couple good games. I mean, super impressed.
And then, but they also the Big East. I think one of the Big East schools will most likely win the NIT, though.
All right, I can't go without mentioning Nebraska players. Wake Forest and Hunter Sallis. Hunter Sallis has been a tremendous improvement to that team over there. Really excited to see what happens there. Ohio State, another team I can't wait to see what happens with. But we're running out of time, so I got to make my points here quick. And so very excited to see what comes of it. Can't forget to mention William Kyle over at South Dakota State. Taylor McCabe, I think is how you pronounce it, over at Iowa on the women's side. And I know there's a lot more of it. Frankie Fiddler from Omaha just announced that he's entering the transfer portal. Interested to see where he goes. I know that there is a player from North Dakota State. I can't remember his name. I think it was, he was one of the twins. Man, I can't remember his name, but his brother plays on Nebraska. What's his name? I can't remember it. Hoiberg.
Oh, Hoiberg, yeah.
Yeah, he is transferring out of North Dakota State. But yeah, there's a bunch of great Nebraska talent this year, and that'll be very interesting to see. But before we sign off here, I want to ask you guys something. This can be any topic. I'm just excited to hear this. Give me one hot take, because we are bringing the heat, and so we gotta bring something at the end here. And this is gonna be a prediction thing. This will be resolved in the next week. That's what I'm telling you, and we'll keep track. A hot take over the course of the next week. Bring the heat. What do you got? What do you can bring to the table? And I'm gonna lead off with a March Madness one because I think that is the easiest route to go here. And I'm going to go with a team that will make the second round. That will surprise some people. I'm going with New Mexico will make the second weekend of March Madness. That is my hot take.
I would say my hot take is Duquesne in the East region making it to the second round, beating BYU, and then either beating if Morehead State upsets Illinois, they'll beat Duquesne, and that's what I have in my one of my main brackets.
You already know it's coming. The South Dakota State over Iowa State. I mean, come on now.
And you don't even have to say they're making it to the second round. That's a big enough upset as it is. That's a big enough hot take as it is. But I can't forget to mention McNeese State. That's another team that I think can make it to the second weekend. But I went with New Mexico for the sake of the Minnesota connection.
Yeah, and then I guess another one over, and then my Western Kentucky pick over Marquette would be my other hot take. Either one of those, if I saw Western Kentucky over Marquette, I would be ecstatic.
Do you got one more for us there, Trinity?
Oh man, I already shut her down.
Oh, anything in next week? I mean, come on, anything sports related, anything hot take?
Hot take next week. I really can't think right now, honestly.
Well, anyways, thank you guys for tuning in to the first episode of Bringing the Heat. It was a lot of fun. I can't wait to be back next week with Kade and Trinity. And then in 2 weeks, we'll add Vita to the mix. She can be with us for the first couple weeks. But I hope you enjoyed listening to Bringing the Heat. Any last thoughts from you guys?
Not for me.
Go Big Red.
Well, let's do it. Thank you guys for listening.